English translation by Claude AI, because this quirky old lady is hopeless with English. Much gratitude to our AI friend.
Coming to this world, leave some good before you go. The 19-year-old's shoulders. About 6 months ago, I saw a YouTube short, a 19-year-old working as a car mechanic to support his family, elderly parents, young siblings, the entire household depending on him alone. The comments section overflowed with praise. So great. So filial. He'll definitely be blessed with good karma. I almost left a snarky comment, but thought better of it. The price of being clear-eyed on the internet is often getting mobbed. But today, I can't hold back anymore. I want to say what I didn't say in that comment section. Beautifying suffering. This world has too many people bearing responsibilities they shouldn't have to carry, while internet commenters package these situations as kindness and accountability. These narratives that beautify suffering will, to some degree, strangle this young person's future. Why should a 19-year-old bear all of this? The answer is simple, though few are willing to say it out loud. This is the result of parental irresponsibility. Parents with insufficient economic capacity, advanced in age, yet still having children beyond their means, then a few years later, naturally transferring the burden of supporting the family to the eldest. This isn't a heartwarming family story. This is using the eldest child as a tool, operating on the logic that children are assets. This logic sometimes includes love and guilt, making the chain both cruel and hidden. At 19, in today's world, a person should be exploring life, developing interests, or starting to pursue their future. Instead, he's forced to prematurely become a parent to an entire household. What he loses isn't just youth, it's the right to choose his own life. More ironically, if this kid ever can't take it anymore and wants to leave, or just wants to live for himself, he'll immediately be labeled unfilial or heartless. So filial piety sometimes becomes a get-out-of-jail-free card for certain parents, ready to be pulled out and displayed in the sun whenever needed. An even more brutal example. Years ago, I read a news report with a fate similar to this 19-year-old mechanic. I still remember it vividly. A mother with defective genes that would cause her children to have severe disabilities kept having children, one after another, all with problems, until finally the last one was born healthy. Only then did she stop. I cannot imagine the suffering awaiting this last, healthy child. An aging mother plus multiple siblings with special needs, how can one person handle all of that? So it seems any unreasonable behavior or demand, as long as it can somehow be framed within filial piety, instantly becomes natural and justified. The operating logic of good intentions. When we humans come to this world for our brief time, the most important thing is actually to maintain good intentions in our minds at all times. Because the operating logic of all things, through repeated acts of goodwill, can guide the world toward positive development. If the human world is filled with malicious thoughts, then everything spirals slowly downward into evil. So when it comes to reproduction, if we start from good intentions, it means an individual has the capacity to let a new life experience beauty, and therefore brings life into the world. Life is precious, so it should be treated well. When this logic is applied to reproduction, humanity's population shouldn't be in its current state, where most people are struggling because of insufficient resources or spiritual energy. The baby boomer era background. This makes me think of the baby boomer generation. How did an era of having no money to raise kids but breeding like crazy come about? Raising children was relatively cheap, contraceptive knowledge and tools weren't widespread, and with limited entertainment options, having children was considered one of the main recreational activities. This sounds absurd, but it's the truth. In contrast, some young people today choosing not to have children isn't a social crisis, it's the return of human rationality. Part of the younger generation is starting to seriously think about the meaning of reproduction. If you decide to bring a life into this world, you must take full responsibility for raising them into an independent, psychologically healthy individual. It's not mission accomplished once the baby is born, it's about cultivating someone capable of living independently with good mental health. But some say declining birth rates will lead to economic collapse. Yes, the probability is very high. But I want to say, I understand and accept this cost, and I'm willing to bear it. Because it will make society rethink what is responsible reproduction and lay the foundation for future rational procreation. So the current trend of poor people choosing to lie flat and let the rich have children and make money is actually a balanced state where both ends can be responsible for life in terms of material resources, and it's peaceful and maximizes keeping one's thoughts calm rather than violent. Therefore, declining birth rates in some places are sometimes a phenomenon of rationality returning. The questions we should ask. Back to the story of that 19-year-old. Rather than being moved in the comments section, we should think, how do we prevent more families from repeating this pattern? Rather than praising his sacrifice, we should question, why is such sacrifice needed? Are there viable alternatives? So people who choose not to have children, sometimes they're not selfish, but rather taking a responsibly alternative approach. Don't use life as a gamble. That's true respect for life. If you've been running on society's predetermined track for many years without ever stopping to ask why does it have to be this way or are these rules actually reasonable, then now might be the time to pause and think. After all, true rationality never goes out of style. Traditional fixed habits. Let me tell you a story. This isn't the story of one person or one family, but a family pattern that has appeared across many eras and many places. In this story, no one is the villain. They're all trying very hard, genuinely wanting to make life work. It's just that the concepts they use were inherited from previous generations. There's a family where 3 generations must support the household. The first generation of adults grew up in an unstable era. In that time, survival itself was difficult. They never learned how to properly care for children because no one taught them. What they learned was endurance, toughing it out, not overthinking things. If you made it through one day, that counted as one day. So when children were born, it was more like something that naturally happens rather than a carefully considered decision. Children taught to be sensible. After the children were born, they were quickly taught to be sensible. Being sensible didn't just mean taking care of themselves, it meant knowing when not to make noise, when to figure things out on their own, and when adults' emotions had to come first. In this family, no one explicitly stated this as a rule, but everyone understood. As long as the children were obedient enough, many problems could be left unaddressed. Later, this family encountered many difficulties. Economic pressure, life instability, and all those emotions that were never properly received. And every time things were about to collapse, the children always had to step up. Not because they were particularly strong, but because they couldn't refuse. So the adults could continue holding on, continue telling themselves, just a little longer. Because soon, someone would take over. The cycle begins. Time slowly passed, and those children grew up. They were never truly cared for, yet learned very early how to care for others. They became accustomed to looking at others' needs first, then seeing how much strength they had left. They didn't really know what boundaries were because no one ever told them they should come first. By the second generation, this pattern seemed to work reasonably well. The family didn't collapse, and life somehow got by. So no one stopped to ask, is this way fair to the children? Because as long as things held together, there was no problem. Later, the third generation was born. No one actually wanted to burden the children. Every adult secretly hoped the children could have it easier. But when difficulties appeared again, those quietest, most considerate, least resistant children were still the first ones expected to help hold things together. Not because people didn't feel sorry for them, but because everyone was too used to doing it this way.